Network Entertainment.
You're watching and listening to Now Steaming, where we dish out our hot takes as Chinoy millennials. I'm Stancy, and with me as always is one of my collaborators. She's also one of the co-creators of So Asian Comics, Kimberly Mas. And Kim, we are rounding out International Women's Month with a very fun episode.
Mm-hmm. It's been a month-long, interesting guests left and right, and I can't wait for this one. I mean, this is going to be interesting because you don't really get to... I mean, our guest today is somebody you actually know from way back.
Yes, somebody I know from before the podcast. Itong Women's Month, we've been featuring stories of strong Chinoy women with their own stories to tell. And I'm pretty excited to introduce an old friend, someone I've recently reconnected with ulit, and someone who I guess... you don't get to say that you encounter a Xavier girly all that often. So but she is more than a Xavier girly. She is a software engineer. She is a comedy improv performer, and she's my old friend from college, Liv Tan Ong. Hi, Liv. Thank you so much for joining us here on Now Steaming.
I'm glad to be here.
Sabi ko, getting to encounter a Xavier girly, because we both did come from Xavier, not something that you encounter every day. So, we've been mutuals on social media for the longest time. And then sometime in the last couple of years, I noticed you changed your name, right? And your activity had also nag-silent siya for a while, right? And then bigla na lang, you started posting the photos of your transition. So that's when it basically served as your coming out on social media.
Yes.
And I guess I wanted to start with what that entire journey has been like over the last few years.
The entire journey?
Well, I guess the process of coming out, like, letting everyone else in.
Yeah.
I think kasi yun yung pinaka-public eh.
Okay, so I guess, my coming out, honestly, the coming out process to myself was the longest. It was several years of struggle, and maybe I'll get into that later on. I'll just brush past it.
Sure.
Of course, I came out to my best friends, and then my colleagues, my co-founders, etc. And I could have just stopped there. Of course, like eventually I'd want to come out to my parents. But as part of some events in the past, I wasn't sure if my mom whether my parents would accept me. So I had made like contingencies na. Like, okay, best friends. If I am kicked out of the house, can I crash in your place?
Okay.
So I'd made contingencies and planned around it. And like, I'd also assumed that, I wouldn't be joining the family business, et cetera, et cetera. So I really wanted to make sure I was as independent as possible. And then it just started wearing down on me. Like, I actually made a separate Instagram account altogether.
Yeah.
That I'm not sure you saw.
I don't think I did. No.
Yeah. It was like, I actually did pole dance for a while and burlesque.
Wow.
But yeah, like that's where I put a lot of like my, I guess that's how I shared I built an entire social group around like sort of the new me, I guess.
Yeah.
And I sort of separated the male Instagram account, and it wore on me, like maintaining two different. Well, I wasn't maintaining the male one, but having two separate Instagram accounts, different social media accounts. That's just like I don't know how social media managers do it.
Yeah.
It's tough.
Right.
And eventually, I was like, you know what? I'm just tired of hiding, and sort of. I know that I'm rare, and somewhere out there is a Xavierian who feels alone.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's probably a lot of them, throughout the years. Xavier's always been a co-ed school. People just didn't know. And I think seeing me come out, be public about it, would kind of make them think. Because like the earlier you transition, the better the outcome will be.
Okay.
And I wish I had that also, but I didn't. So I waited this long. And hopefully my coming out will kind of help someone kind of think, okay, it's doable.
I want to get into that kasi sabi mo nga, it's very rare to find someone who went to an all-boys school. What more environment that you and I grew up in, di ba? Na Xavier is this affluent, Catholic, Chinese environment with all of the restrictions that come with our culture, di ba?
Yes.
And then sabi mo na this journey of coming out and expressing your truest self started long ago. So I can imagine how isolating that must have been when you're surrounded with by all this testosterone and all of these expectations that come with it.
I guess, I mean, so here's the thing. I had surrounded myself with the gays, artists.
Even in Xavier?
Stan. When I came, like years later, looking back at my friend group in Xavier, every single one of them turned out to be gay.
Oh, okay.
Either gay or bi or pan or some flavor of queer.
Okay.
Yeah. So I never actually surrounded myself with much testosterone. I feel like I was kind of self-sorting. Like, I knew I was different from my effeminate friends, those whom I suspected were gay, but I didn't feel like, okay, I had a crush on one classmate, but I didn't feel any particular sense that, oh, I like boys.
Okay.
For me, it was like, okay, that's this one particular classmate I find, attractive.
Yeah.
And I already knew I was attracted to girls. So like, there's that kind of, I don't exactly belong to these very feminine like this feminine group.
Yeah.
But I definitely belong less to all those really boyish guys. So like, I sort of stayed away from all the testosterone, like, fueled conversation or whatever. Does that answer your question?
I guess it does. Kasi, I mean, hindi porket nag-Xavier ka, di ba, na you surround yourself with like the basketball players or the musiqueros or whatever, right? Like we all had our little boxes and labels and everything. And when I met you in UP na, you seem to give off this parang you didn't really follow what everyone else was expecting Xavier boys to be like. Like that's how I met you. You were kind of in your own little zone, if I remember correctly, right? But the way that you described it was like even sa Xavier pa lang, you were already self-sorting nga, na parang gumagawa ka na sarili mong label nun. So what was that label that you were trying to find, I guess, is what I mean to ask.
Well, at the time, I didn't realize it, but I honestly, at the time, I was just with the nerds.
Okay, yeah.
That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
It just so happened that 90% of the nerds turned out to be queer.
So, the way that we're conditioned sa Xavier is parang may parang blueprint di ba? Na more often than not, you're gonna go to Ateneo, you're gonna meet some Chinoy girl, probably from Ika, you're gonna get married, and then you're gonna have children, and then they're gonna be the next generation of Xavierans and Ikans. So that was the stereotypical life path that, whether we admit it or not, we were all conditioned to follow. How did that make you feel, knowing na you didn't really see yourself fit in that box?
I mean, I didn't go to Ateneo.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure what my future would be like. I didn't think much about my future at the time. I just wanted to find myself, I guess. I mean, and at the time, from my youth, there were already signs that I would be trans, but I didn't actually, like, it's, hindsight 2020.
Yeah.
So at the time I was like, I didn't even have the words for it, the
Right.
language, or the mental model for it until actually after college. But I knew like it's hard to think about a thing if you don't have the words for it,
Okay.
if you don't have the mental model for it. All I just knew was like, that life path doesn't feel correct.
Uh-huh.
And I couldn't explain why.
Sabi mo na meron ng signs from your youth that you were trans. What were they? Kasi yun nga, sabi mo, maybe there's a Xavier boy or there's like an Ateneo boy or some Chinoy listening to this podcast who, like you, probably don't have those words to think of these mental models. So what were those signs?
Well, when I was, so I'm an only child.
Yeah.
So I never had like an older sister or younger. I don't have sisters to look at and think, I like that more. I didn't have many female friends either when I was younger. But I was very curious about my mom's lipstick. There was this one time when I was so curious about what it would be like to have boobs that when my mom went out to do some groceries or whatever, I'd stuffed my chest with like tissue paper. Of course, it did, like there's no bra to hold the tissue paper, so it would just be this shapeless lump in my chest, and then when my mom, like, I didn't realize my mom had come back before I expelled, and then I just kind of removed all of the tissue paper and made a mess on the floor. And like, mom was like, "What the fuck are you doing?" So of course she didn't say fuck, but what are you doing? And I was cleaning. I'm like, what? So like that was like grade school pa. See, the trouble with these kind of things is the thing is, to be trans, you don't actually need to have these early signs. And that's, I don't know what the solution is for that. It was kind of weird for me because like I liked Lego, but I also liked playing house. I loved the Pink Ranger in I was gonna say Powerpuff Girls, and in Power Rangers. I actually wanted to get the belt because I thought that the belt would turn me into the Pink Ranger. It was so stupid, but yeah, like, I mean, I feel like those are the signs. Like the signs matter, kind of. It's hard to rely on those signs. What matters is that the environment is not judgmental, so that the person feels safe exploring.
And did you ever feel that our culture, whether it's being Chinese Filipino or being in an all boys school like Xavier, was it oppressive?
Well, I mean, when you're in that school, and the guy's like, "Oh, that's gay, bakla," that kind of, when it's used as a pejorative, it kind of makes it, kind of discourages you.
Yeah.
So I guess it's oppressive in that way. Of course, not with them. Like, these kids don't know that's what they're doing.
Right.
And a lot of that comes from the parents, their elders who, like, you learn from your dad. When your dad says, "Oy, bakla yata yan," and then oh, so it's a bad thing. And then you transfer it to your peers.
Yeah.
Versus if your parents were always loving and understanding about, other people who are different from you.
Right.
Then you would approach it differently. But it's the problem with culture is, like, just because your parents are like that, like, everyone's parents need to be like that. That's the thing, because that's what shapes the culture.
Yeah.
I'm also curious, like, was that something you got also when you were in Xavier? And I mean, obviously, like, in Ika, you also get to interact. There are certain groups that, let's say, you don't really vibe with, but you have to interact. Let's say there's a group project. So, my question is like, did you ever feel like, did you ever get those comments before in Xavier, or is it more like you just kind of tried not to show it?
Oh, I was a good actor. Like I mean, everyone was shocked except for the people closest to me. Everyone was shocked that when I transitioned. It was like, I mean, I was kind of buff then, and
Yeah.
so like I made sure that okay, this is what's expected of me. I can just do that. I can act that way. Oh my god, I feel like I lost the question. What's the question again?
No. I mean, did you ever get those comments?
Oh yes,
Like,
yes.
yeah.
So like I didn't because I was able to kind of mask it. That said, actually I have to retract my comment. Apparently everyone in my engineering block thought I was gay.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
yeah. But maybe because I was kind of more relaxed in college.
Tsaka
But
UP kasi, di ba?
Yeah,
UP
yeah.
is, generally more LGBTQ friendly.
yeah. So in Xavier, I don't think I was ever picked on for being, because there were huge targets. Like there were, you know how in those school plays, when there's a female role, there's some boys who would always wear the wig or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
And there were two guys in that in the
Wait.
class who that was their thing. Like they would always be the ones wearing the wig and stuff. So like the heat was like they were just like, people weren't actually actively harassing them or anything. Like by high school, wala na yung wala na yung oppression, wala na yung homophobia, masyado, no, or at least no outright homophobia. Like they were respected.
Okay.
Yeah. Partly because like, they're like the top sa academics sa class. So, but like, because they were so loud in that expression, nobody suspected me. There was someone gayer than me. Parang ganun.
Right. Okay. Yeah. No, that makes sense. Yung describe mo just now, yung parang there's always someone na mas malaking target in front of me. It reminds me of Survivor. And I love Survivor. So I always looked at awkward social situations as how would I navigate it in the context of Survivor. And you just hit it right on the head. Find a bigger target and hide behind said target.
Yeah.
So that's what you did. I want to transition to talking about sorry, pun
transition.
to how your parents reacted, because you said that throughout the process of coming out, you were already making contingency plans in case they were to shut you out. So what was the reaction from your parents, given that you're an only child pa?
Okay, so when I was 27, I started suspecting and actually sought a psychiatrist who told me, "Yep, you're textbook trans. I'm gonna write you a prescription." I was like, whoa, I'm not even sure. I'm just suspecting that I might be trans. And then he was, "Oh, okay, that's fine. If you want the prescription, just let me know." And I'll, I never called him again. But, because I'm cautious, like when it's kind of that eager, I get like, I feel suspicious. But after that, I told my mom, "Hey, Mom, I might be trans." And she was like, "You're confused? Don't tell your dad, he's gonna have a heart attack." Never talk about this again. We never had this conversation.
Oh shit. Okay.
And then so I, like from that moment, right, in my head, okay, my dad's not gonna like it. My mom's afraid that my dad's not gonna like it. And she told me not to tell her again. So from 27 all the way until, 33, I did that soul searching without telling my parents. And so I started hormones June 4, 2022 because of Putin.
Oh, okay.
So Putin invaded Ukraine, and
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, we're all gonna die.
Right.
Because he's not gonna be able to take Ukraine easily.
Yeah.
So he's gonna get frustrated, he's gonna use nukes, and we're gonna have nuclear war, and I'm gonna die, and I can't die a man.
Okay.
And that's when I was like, okay, you know what, fuck it, YOLO, I'll just take the hormones. Even if I'm not sure, I'll just take the hormones now.
Okay.
And then that kind of helped me along. And then the thing is, I had some acid problems. For some reason or another, every October, end of October or early November, I would get hospitalized. Because I would get some kind of flu-like symptom, and I would be bedridden for a few days. I would not eat. I'd just be sleeping. And then when I tried eating, I'd puke.
Yeah.
When I'd drink, I'd puke. And then I wouldn't be able to take any medication, so I'd have to get hospitalized. So paano yung hormones ko? Like, I'd have to take my pills kind of surreptitiously. I'd be like, is the doctor there? Is mom there? Okay, they're all out. So that was fine. But then I switched to injections. What am I going to do? Because, okay, so injections are better for you. And also more economical. So that for the trans girlies out there, injections are the way to go.
Okay.
So, I mean, I can't inject myself stealthily. That's crazy. So I need to be able to do it. I need to be able to ask either a nurse or a doctor to do it. I need my mom to know. So I told my mom. And then she was like, that's why you have boobs. I knew there was something weird going on with your chest. I knew your face was looking a little different. So she asked a few questions like, oh, what were your plans, blah, blah. It was much better than I expected. About like back in 27, back when I was 27, I kind of came out to her and
Yeah.
she was like scared and shit.
Yeah.
But this time, out of necessity, I told her and she was okay.
Do you think that the circumstances, given that you were in the hospital and that it was sort of kind of a life and death situation?
Okay, it wasn't a life and death situation.
Okay.
But I think it helped that she saw the changes na.
As in the physical changes?
Yeah, I feel like she suspected already.
Uh-huh.
And so it's a different thing if it's like a snap from like, oh, this guy who's bald and muscular and I've, all that sort of thing, and then he tells you something like that. That's a bigger cognitive shock than, my son is moving a little more feminine. He's got these things on his chest. And then he tells you that he is trans, or she is trans. Like, fine.
So parang straight to acceptance na.
Kind of. It was a struggle pa rin.
Yeah.
After. But credit to her. She studied. She researched it and stuff. And I was surprised. I can't tell you off the bat what she said, but there's some things that she said like, wow, you know about that. Thank you. Good job.
Was it hard for her to start using your new name or to start referring to you with feminine pronouns?
She hasn't started using my new name yet.
Okay.
So she still calls me Levi. Which is funny because one of my, when I was younger, for some reason in this country, people think Levi is a girl's name or Levi is a girl's name. So I would sometimes get ma'am, and which I liked. But anyway, back to the present or the near past. Or yeah, the present. She doesn't call me Liv. She calls me Levi. I forgive her for that. I forgive my parents for that because they've known me all their lives.
Yeah.
They gave me the name. Levi is not a particularly terrible name, to be honest. Pronouns. she has started using feminine pronouns, especially when she's around my girlfriend. My girlfriend has been great in that she is kind of unwavering. She will call me Liv. She will say she, her, sort of almost to make a point to everyone around me. And my mom caught on. So every now and then she will call me she, her. But when she's around my dad, she will still say he, him.
Okay.
Like my dad has more or less obviously I haven't been kicked out.
Yeah.
But he has had a bit more trouble getting on board. But he is resisting less and less.
Was it a contentious paano ba, interaction? Like when you had to have that conversation with him? How did he receive it? Kasi Asian parents in general, di ba, mas gentle pa rin ang moms kahit papano.
Yes. When I first came out to him, he surprised me at how, because he's an engineer. So he surprised me with how kind of clinical his questions were. Like, okay, actually, like, so you're taking hormones. What's the effect on your body? How about fertility? Thankfully. So another tip to all you Chinay Xavierians, or pretty much anyone, right? Freezing your sperm. It's like a golden ticket to parental acceptance.
Why is that?
Chinese parents want nothing more than to have grandkids.
Yeah.
The biggest problem of transitioning is becoming sterile. So if you've frozen your sperm beforehand, that's one worry gone.
Right.
So,
So that's something you actively did to appease your dad?
well, it just seems like a wise thing to do. Because, like, okay, if I don't have any plans to have kids, then why bother? But strategically, knowing what I know about Asian parents, then, it costs more. You're kind of throwing away money, but I would pay 36,000 pesos if it meant it would make my parents accepting my transition easier.
Right, yeah. Parang in the larger scheme of things, it's a small price to pay.
Yes.
How about you, the larger family? Kasi syempre, di ba, like we live in a community where the aunties and the uncles, they talk,
Yeah.
the Viber chats and all of that, right? So, you have the conversation with your close circle, with your parents. How about the people around them or the people around you?
Oh, that was so easy. Yeah, like I called every single aunt and uncle and cousin personally. Like, hey, I have something to tell you. I'm trans. And then actually I said, hey, do you know what transgender means? And all of them knew. It's like, okay, so you're aware. So I am trans. And then I explained a bit and then, oh, okay. We accept you. We love you. That was really every uncle and aunt, even on the Japanese side. Cute yung cousins ko. The younger one started calling me Achi.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. Some asked me what my new name was, and they made the effort to call me Liv. So that's very heartwarming.
Why did you make it a point to go out of your way and call them individually? Kasi diba, like, very sensitive issue siya, very sensitive topic. May iba na parang, sige, we're gonna hide you muna from like clan events or whatever until you're fully ready or something. Pero ikaw, you just went for it.
Yeah, well, there's nothing shameful about it. And I think it's an act of love. It's a way of making them feel important. They're significant enough for me to tell them about this rather than hearing it from someone else, from my parents. And I get to control the narrative. I can tell them what I want. And the thing with relying on word of mouth is that the message gets corrupted. It's a game of telephone.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
It's like pass the message.
Oh.
Yeah.
It gets different.
Yeah. These days you work in IT, diba? You're a software engineer, which is also a very male-dominated field. So what's that like for you, given that you're a trans woman?
I don't know about male-dominated field. Trans women are overrepresented in the tech industry.
Oh, I didn't know that at all.
There is a stereotype of the trans coder or hacker wearing programmer socks, which is like kind of this tongue-in-cheek like thigh-high socks.
Okay.
So there's that, but also that is more true in first world countries, in the States, Canada, Europe. Europe's not a country, but you get what I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the stereotype, that's the demographic there. But in the Philippines, I see your point that like in the Philippines, it's still male dominated. And I get around that by being a co-founder. Like, also, it turns out, remember when I said my friends were the nerds and the gays?
Yeah.
So I founded the company with 5 friends. One is no longer with us for reasons I will not disclose. Out of the remaining 4, so I'm part of that. 3 of us are queer.
Okay.
Only one is straight. And so yeah, like it's kind of part of our culture as a company now to be inclusive.
I think that's awesome kasi ano rin siya eh, parang you keep each other safe. There's that built-in support system. And I guess there is that luxury, as you said, of being a co-founder. But I can't imagine if you don't have that luxury of being a co-founder where you're trying to make a name for yourself or you're trying to get your feet wet in this space. How do you even navigate, given that you're trying to figure out palang your identity as a person?
Well, I'm not sure how I can answer that question, seeing as I don't have that experience. I do have some friends though who are not part of the executive team on their company who are trans, and well, she is an extremely beautiful woman. In fact, you wouldn't know she was trans until you met her. Unless she told you. That's what I meant. And she experiences all the misogyny in the workplace, which is kind of like affirming in a bad way.
Bakit? Like how?
For a trans woman to experience misogyny,
Okay.
that's
okay.
like, wow, I pass.
Right. But also, binabastos
But
ka.
that sucks.
Yeah.
So,
Hindi ko naisip yun eh.
Yeah.
There's a good that comes with the bad pa rin.
yeah. So she gets, in general, she sometimes rants to me about
Right.
certain things that happens in the workplace, but like, sorry sis, like, tell me more. But I have no, it's hard to, because that's already cultural eh. You know, like, it's hard to change that. So the most you can do is apply to my company.
And how do you do that? Kasi nga, sabi mo na it starts at the top, diba? You guys are the executive team and you guys are under different categories.
Yes.
Diba? So how do you set the tone so that everyone from the top down follows this culture of inclusivity that you would yourself want?
Well, that's, I guess, part of being a leader. If you see something you don't like, you fix it. You take someone aside, you talk to them. It's also part of, I mean, I am very visibly trans. I'm visibly queer. And if I'm the one doing the interview, you can kind of see already. Like, thankfully, we haven't had much trouble with applicants being queer phobic or anything. But that's kind of selection bias almost, or survivorship bias, right? Like if a person is queer phobic and they do any kind of research in our company, they would be turned off.
So parang nagsa-self-select na rin sila in a way.
Yeah. So there is a lot of value in being kind of loud and proud about being a queer inclusive group.
And how often are these spaces present? Like, pwedeng in your industry or pwedeng in the industries adjacent to yours? Because we don't talk about that a whole lot, diba? Yung parang, our company culture is actually queer inclusive. That's not something I hear a whole lot.
Well, I don't know much about other companies. Like, you can signal queer inclusiveness by joining or sponsoring queer events, like, say, the Pride March, being there with representatives. Again, I feel like I've lost the question. Can you repeat that?
No, curious lang ako with how you guys are able to like set that tone. But yeah, I think you've more or less answered it na rin naman. Being able to express yourself also goes into like your creative pursuits, diba? Like we mentioned that at the top of the podcast that you do perform with a troupe called Deus Ex Machina.
Yes.
And I've seen some of your stuff on your Instagram stories, and I'm curious about how your story of coming out has influenced your performance, or like, would you be involved in a group like this if you did not go through your coming out journey?
I've been in that group since 2014.
Okay.
They were honestly a big part of me feeling safe. I think I said earlier that I had surrounded myself with the gays.
Yeah.
That was not just my co-founders and friends in my company, but also almost every organization or friend group I have are very like clearly progressive. So so yeah, like having that group did help. Coming out, obviously they were very supportive. So like the roles that were available, they would, hey, you want to play this femme presenting role? And it also helps that, excuse me, it also helps that there are 2 other trans women in our group.
So for those who haven't heard of Deus Ex Machina, how would you describe the group in itself and your performances? Like if anyone is curious to catch a show, but curious to see you in action, for example, like what can you expect from a group called Deus Ex Machina?
So we do erotic comedy. Basically sex jokes.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
We do try to make some of our pieces sexy. But, we're primarily like the sex part is primarily about sex positivity. So we talk about consent. We talk about gender identity and orientation, etc. We talk about maybe like women's rights, misogyny, etc. And sometimes we talk about politics. The pieces I write tend to be political.
Siyempre, taga-UP ka.
Yes. But more than anything, everything has to be funny. So that's the primary thing. If you're looking for like a nice laugh, a good laugh, we can with some spiciness. That can we can give you a good time.
All right.
Yeah,
So-
and usually, like, sex is super, like, I'm trying to take everything in. In the Chinoy society or Chinoy community, it's usually like, oh, it's taboo. Like, we don't talk about sex. Like, it's usually like they give that implication. It's bad. So like, how did it feel like, finally performing there? Or were you a bit like, oh, you didn't really talk about it before, and then when you went to this group, you started being a bit more open, or were you already open before?
I'd say I was already open before. I joined because of my good friend Pepe Boagan, and before I joined DSM, we're already quite progressive. I supported, nag-rally nga ako sa RH bill, like in support of RH bill. And so talking about sex, talking about abortion, about contraception, that's nothing new to me. Honestly, it's the writing screenplays that was new to me. Well, stage plays. And my first stage play was a romance between Duterte and Leila de Lima.
Fanfic kung fanfic.
Yeah, like, and
Like IRL.
this was, by the way, this was before Duterte ran for president.
Oh shit.
Oh wow.
So I predicted that he would run for president eventually.
So this is all your fault.
Yes, I'm sorry, guys. So the story is basically that Duterte is unable to express his feelings of romance and lust. And as a tsundere,
Okay.
Okay.
I know what that is, but how do you define that for those who aren't informed?
yeah, so expresses desire and affection through, well, angrily.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, lahat ng mga verbal abuse niya, like accusing her of things, that was all part of his love language. Yeah. And it resonated. So, he did more, etc. The rest is history.
Yeah, you've been there for over a decade at this point.
Yes.
What's it like getting to release all of that creativity on a platform like that? In a public setting pa?
It's fun. Right. There's some phenomenal pieces. There's some, not like, every now and then as a comedian, you bomb. That's part of the game. That's part of life. Thankfully, there are more good performances, more good pieces than less. And then it's also kind of cathartic because the things that I write are like every author in the roster. Every author has their own thing. There's one, I'd say she's a genius. She has like these twists in her stories, and they're all very personal, and somehow they're also fresh and so profound. Ako, everything is about, politics. The things that Duterte get into, the things he says and does, Marcos, Imelda, Xi Jinping. So like when shit's happening, like right now, right, in the States, really bad things are happening to trans women or trans people in general. And Trump and honestly Elon they're just like taking it up to 11.
Yeah.
Right? They are the cause for all of this. And so that's what I've written. And I'm going to shit on them. And it's going to be funny. Well, I hope it's going to be funny. But yeah, it's cathartic.
And I think there's power in that. Kasi parang the way that you just talked about, for example, Trump and Elon Musk, diba? Cis-het men in seats of power, positions of power, enacting abuse and oppression on trans people, diba? So parang to shit on them in your work is to literally take back that power, isn't it?
I wouldn't say literally taking it back.
Okay.
I guess I wouldn't say figuratively either.
It's
a mix. It's a mix of both, right?
Sure.
There's a bit of real power, mostly symbolic power.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, but
My bad.
It's also no, it's fine. But it's also like, I I have no delusion that what I say is going to change the world. But in my own little way, I'm helping people, like both myself and people around, to laugh a bit about them. Cathart, if that's a word.
Just exercise those feelings of catharsis, no?
Yes.
Because there's a lot of pent up tension and aggression because of everything going on.
Curious, has any of your friends or your family, have they seen like at least a show?
Oh, I would be mortified if my family.
Hala, why?
No, because like, okay. I guess it's back to the Chinoy feelings about sex, isn't it?
Okay.
I don't want my I don't want my family to hear me make sex noises on stage. Like that's gonna be so weird.
Sure.
My friends though, they've
Okay.
like all of my good friends have seen a show or two.
And I've heard you make said sex noises.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. But your for your parents or like even your aunties and uncles or the cousins who look up to their Ate Liv, you would rather that they not muna.
It's I haven't actually thought about it.
But now that it's there, parang now you're forced to reckon with that
Yes.
possibility.
Thank you so much for that, Stan. Maybe there's some cool cousins I would be fine with, but like the aunts and uncles, like
Yeah.
this wouldn't even be their thing. Like I
Right,
know this
right.
wouldn't be their. They would be like, huh, what's happening? Why are you doing that? Yeah.
Do you think that goes into the territory na parang yung acceptance of, let's say, a trans person or someone LGBT in the family, parang may may hangganan siya. Kasi parang, okay, like if it's you as my family member, I love you and I accept you, but I can't bear to see you in a space like this. Do you think that that's a thing?
I feel like, could you say that in English?
Like, the tolerance reaches a certain extent lang.
So like there's a limit to,
Yeah.
to how
Like how
much they
express it, how they can accept yung expression mo of certain things about your identity. Like yun nga, when you're expressive of sex, for example.
So when I started out, my parents asked me, "Hey, can you be gentle?
What does that mean?
Can you like don't go on in like a gown suddenly?"
Okay.
Right? They asked me to kind of ease into it.
Okay. How does that make you feel?
It was not surprising. It was perfectly within my prediction. A little frustrating, but I mean, it's not surprising at all. My dad complained about me wearing earrings. Now, whatever. My dad would make this sour face when he saw me wear anything remotely feminine. And now he still protests, but he's kind of protesting less.
Okay.
And I think a big part of it is back then I looked less like a girl. Now I look more like a girl. And the thing with my dad is he is primarily concerned with what people think.
Yeah. Like most Chinoys are.
Yes.
Because the same
And-
face and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not really being trans that is shameful per se. And this is me this is not me expressing my opinion. This is me expressing my projection of my guess of what they're thinking. Right? It's
Yeah,
not
go right ahead.
it's not the being trans that's the bad thing. It's being trans and not passing.
Oh. Okay.
It's looking awkward that they don't like. And I mean, I get it. Like, I don't want to wear something that, if I don't want to go out wearing something that I don't look good in, I don't want to look. one of the things that I struggled with was the feeling of being a man in a dress. And there are some dresses that simply the shape doesn't work with me. That's man in a dress energy. But there are some dresses where I wear it, wow, that looks amazing. So I feel like as my face changes, as I learn how to wear and choose garments and styling them, etc., and looking natural for my expressed gender, it's become easier. So the reason I say this, right? Your question was, is there a limit to their tolerance, etc.? The thing is, this is mutable. Right? They ask you to slow down. They protest, and you push. It's a negotiation of tolerance, I guess.
Yeah.
So right now, I wouldn't wear a swimsuit in front of them, but maybe eventually I will. I wouldn't wear a gown. I would wear a gown in front of my mom. I don't know. Eventually, I'll wear a gown in front of my dad. So I guess what I'm saying is, the boundary can be pushed. It's present, but it can be pushed.
Okay. I'm curious ako about crap. I was thinking of like a follow up to that. I just lost my train of thought. We're gonna fix this in post. But it's very fascinating how you navigated all of this. Kasi it's tricky.
Yeah.
Yun, there. Now I remember. You mentioned that one of your biggest fears was getting kicked out. And obviously you haven't been kicked out. But why haven't you considered going, or did you ever consider going out, moving out, just so you can fully express yourself and live your truest self?
So that's been a desire of mine for a long time. I really wanted to do that because, as you said, you really hit the nail on the head. I'd want to be able to express myself at home. I am never going to get better at styling myself, at dressing, etc., if I cannot be myself, if I'm forced to suppress my femininity, as it were. And for a while, I actually did make plans. I looked around for accommodations, like a place I can rent. Being a cyclist really helps. Like, I don't have to have a car. As long as there's a space for my bike, I can go anywhere. Of course, I didn't wear a bike here because wear a bike. I didn't ride a bike here.
Yeah.
So the thing is, I'm an only child. My parents are getting older. And that's one of my biggest fears. Honestly, when I watch a film or a TV show or whatever, those are one of the triggers for me. When there's like the parent dies, it hurts. Like, I love my parents so much. Even if they hurt me, of course, they're always forgiven. I love them. And honestly, now that I'm out and there's a chance for them to fully know me, I'm even more attached. And I know that if I'm not around, my dad's a workaholic. He's never home. What's my mom to do? Like, she needs, like, the elders, they need human interaction. You take that away, that's a rapid decline.
Okay.
Yeah. So, also, it's fucking cheaper.
Yeah. No, for sure. But just to share with anyone who is also struggling with the idea of moving out, regardless of what your gender or your orientation is, it's so much cheaper. But the price that you pay with your mental health, that's your rent, man. That is your
I think
rent.
it's a hefty price to pay.
At least from my personal experience.
Yeah,
So,
same here.
Yeah.
For me, though, I'm kind of lucky in that, like, my dad knows if he stayed at home, he would drive me and my mom crazy.
Okay.
So he kind of he kind of stays in the office.
So may system na kayo, may boundaries
Yeah.
na kayo. They're all
Distance.
well established.
Yeah, and my mom is like, she's an angel. I hit the jackpot with my mom on this. Like, there was that weird moment where she said, don't tell my dad, don't talk about this again. But other than that, she's an angel.
Any other questions from your end, Kim? Because this has been a very illuminating conversation, to be honest.
Yeah, I think it's probably the first time because I'm just taking it in, and I think I was talking to you about this off cam. Like the closest experience that I have is a thesis mate who's a trans man. There you go. So went into transition as well. So yeah, I think it feels the same way. Like listening to it firsthand also, and then Chinoy. So it's very new. It's very their transition is great, by the way.
Oh,
yeah.
I
Super
wonder
good.
if I know
Yeah.
this person. I don't know many trans men.
Yeah, I can.
Is there sorry to cut
sure.
you off, Kim, but is there like a support group online for trans
Oh yeah, maybe
people?
there.
So, how do I broach this topic?
Yeah, diba? Kasi like you might be listening and you might be transitioning yourself, or you might be just trying to find your people. So like, how do you find a support group if you don't even know where to look?
So, I found more support on Reddit
Okay.
and Discord than, because like, okay,
Yeah, Discord, tambayan ng mga bata ngayon, di ba?
the thing is most of I'm choosing my words very carefully.
Sure.
There is okay. Lesbian trans women are a minority within a minority.
Okay.
There are more straight trans women, at least for now, in the Philippines. There's the ratio's probably more even abroad. Simply because, like here, I mean, there's this feeling like it's a little more conservative. So there's this feeling of, well, if I like girls as a man, why would I ever become a woman? That's just making things harder for myself. Not realizing that there is something more fundamental, right? Your identity is different is more fundamental than like who you like.
Yeah.
So right now, because of that, there are fewer lesbian trans women here. Or maybe there's the same semantics. Maybe there is an even number of lesbian trans women, they just don't know it yet. They're just not out to
Yeah.
themselves either. So what I'm trying to say is most of the groups here, like the Facebook groups, are catering to straight trans women. And a lot of them, well, at least the ones that I've seen, most of the questions are picture of a white man. Kilala niyo ba to? Tong afam na to.
Okay.
Chinachat niya ako. Is he flirting with any of you other sisters?
Okay.
It's like, kind of checking to see if this guy's a player.
Right. Yes.
And then there's some, I can confidently say this. I've seen more than one post where it's a post on this Facebook group, and I'm not going to tell you what the Facebook group is. This post on the Facebook group about a trans woman who is thinking about she might be attracted to women. And then there are these comments, these horribly homophobic comments from trans women. Like, bakit ka pa nag-transition? Parang ganun, like, this is so ignorant. This is so horrible. You should know better as trans women, but wala eh. So it's maybe there are some more progressive groups. I haven't found them on Facebook. But yeah, it's just those things that I see that hurt I wasn't the one who posted it, but it hurts to see.
Yeah.
And it's really not just one post. Like maraming post na ganun, and then it's like, of course, there are some voices of reason who like, hey, why are you guys? Thankfully, there are some people like, hey, what are you guys doing? Orientation is different from identity.
Yeah.
Umayos kayo. But the fact that there's still that it's not even the baseline. It's so heartbreaking. That's why I left that group. On Reddit, though, it's so much better.
I think the anonymity helps. No?
I don't know.
Or maybe how Reddit generally tends to police themselves in kasi like Redditors about like moderators take the role seriously more than most.
I would also say there's when you go to Reddit, you're going there for information, you're going there for I mean, of course there's like shit posting Reddits,
Sure,
but like you're not there by default. Like I said, like Facebook, you are kind of there as a default.
Yeah.
In this culture, you're just there by default. There's an extra barrier of intention when you go to Reddit.
Right.
And those who go there with the intentionality, you're already automatically cutting out a lot of the. Well, it's kind of self-selecting, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Parang matik filter mo na you end up finding like-minded individuals more often than not. Right. I just want to say now we can go on and on, but it's getting a bit late and I don't want to take up too much of your time. But I just want to say, Liv, I really appreciate that you even took the time out to meet with us and to share your story because like I said, it's illuminating. It's very, it's fascinating to me hearing your journey and how open and candid you are to share this story because as you said at the top of the podcast, someone out there might just need that voice of actually Liv to like guide them. And you have no idea what impact your story today might have on someone in a month, in a year, diba? However long. So I just want to express my gratitude on behalf of our team. You took this time out to share it with us.
Actually, if you have a listener who reaches out, like that wants to connect with me, please do forward that person to me.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Do you want to give your handle here or do you want the pod IG to just be the conduit na lang?
Honestly, I don't know.
Okay.
I feel like...
Let's err on the side of caution.
Yeah, let's err on the side of caution. I also don't want this to be self-promoting.
Sure, yeah.
So it's more of, if they reach out to you, please send them to me. I have a lot of wisdom to give, including resources like endocrinologists. Mm-hmm. And kind of if you want to go DIY, I might have some resources to point you to.
Okay, yeah. At least, it's generally vetted and safe kasi pinagdaanan mo na and, I'd like to think you know what you're doing and what you're talking about. So yeah, if you find yourself or if you've resonated with what Liv has shared sa story niya and the experiences that she has talked about, then shoot us a message at Now Steaming Podcast. We'll be happy to connect you and, get a conversation going. On our end naman, you know what? Liv, let's have you plug Deus Ex Machina as well. If you have any upcoming shows, this episode goes out at the end of March. So anything end of March or April, what do you guys have going on?
Well, no, actually, no. We don't have anything. So, because we don't plan our shows far in advance. Mm-hmm. So our show is actually already this Friday in 2 days time. So it's not gonna be, by the time you hear this, it's gonna be too late.
Mm-hmm. So where can people follow the group para they can be updated with like whatever events you might have going on?
I should look for the DSM Instagram, which is Deus Ex Machina PH.
Okay.
So DeusMachina PH.
On Instagram.
Mm-hmm. On Instagram.
All right. And as for us naman on the podcast, you can find us at Now Steaming Podcast. For all of the work that I do, it is @_Stancy or facebook.com/Stancy online.
Yeah, it's at Kimberly Mass for me. And for both me and Sed, that's at So Asian Comics. Feel free to reach out anytime.
Thanks again, Liv, for joining us here on the podcast.
My
for
pleasure.
your candor and your generosity. Thank you as well to Babyface producer Jasper and to Kuya Jeff and the rest of our friends over at the Pod Network. And as we end another episode of Now Steaming, my name is Stancy, and on behalf of Kimberly Mas and Cedric Cheng, we want to leave you on one last note na hindi lahat ng Chinoy
Palaging prim and proper.
Thank you for listening to Now Steaming. Now Steaming is hosted by Stan C, Kimberly Mas, and Cedric Cheng. Ronel Cheng is our writer and researcher. Our show is produced, mixed, edited, and mastered by the Pod Network.
The opinions of podcast creators, hosts, and guests are not necessarily reflective of the official stance of the Pod Network Entertainment, its hosts, or other network programs. The content created by the people behind the podcast is personal and not meant to harm any religion, ethnicity, group, organization, company, or individual.